So what's going on in Iran? Iran has a rich culture and history, and they've been through a lot of changes in the last 40, 50 years ago. And since the revolution happened in 1978, 1979, there was a huge impact in their society, economy, and also their culture. Speaking of Iran, it's the second largest country in the Middle East. Majority of people, they speak Farsi, and their current president is Hassan Rouhani, and their political and economic capital is Tehran. So it's one of those developing countries. However, it was growing a lot faster when the Shah was in charge. But when Khomeini took power, because of he banned a lot of music, films, Western art, and all of that. So there was a lot of international sanction against of the country. So still is a developing country, but it has been slow. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is going to be the major impact that happened first in the music and second on the women's rights. So I was looking at the France 24. There was a lady, her name was Eve Jackson, who is a culture editor, and then she was interviewing with a rock singer. His name is King Ram, and then he was in New York, and he was in New York for 7 years, but after a while he realized that majority of his audience, they're in Iran, so he decided to come back. But the first question that Eve asked him, it was like, do you see it as a challenge being in Iran and being a musician? He said, yeah, it used to be a lot harder after the revolution happened, but now I can perform in public, but in order to do performance in the public, I have to get the permission from administration of culture. The second thing was, like I said, it was like women's rights. So like before the revolution happened, you used to see like a lot of women, they had the choice to wear whatever that they want. They could have a Western outfit if they wanted to, or if they wanted to wear hijab. But after the revolution, you see suddenly there's a change. The majority of people, they have to cover, even to cover their face. So it was like a kind of like a shock after 2 years that this huge the difference happened. But nowadays, if you look at Iran, especially women's, you can see they're not like what they used to be when Shah was in charge, or not right after the revolution. They still wear coats up to their knees, and then they have like a scarf on top of their head. The second thing that the third thing that I'm gonna talk about is gonna be the woman's position and a couple relationships. So based on what I saw on the generated power and culture context, which it talks about couple relationship. So when the revolution happened, it changed a lot about like a woman's in the family, being as a wife or being as a mother. It's talking about they're still in charge of working at home. They're still responsible to working at home, but because of they got educated, and then they control they got a control over their condition. So it's becoming better and better. The other thing that you can see, there was about this American scholar called Jeffrey. He was saying he was seeing a kind of like a paradox, that he was going to Iran, and when he was in the Frankfurt airport, he saw like a lot of women, when they were trying to get to Iran, before that they could wear their makeup, they didn't have to wear hijabs, but while they were trying to go back to Tehran, they had to have their wear hijab. So like the first thing they can see, it's obviously hijab is not their choice, they just have to wear that. And in general, as you see, if I want to talk about Iran, I have to say Iran is a country of the paradox from the past, future, and present. And one of the things again that Jeffrey, when he went to Shiraz, he was talking about like back in the day in Shiraz, they could make wines, but unfortunately that city is dry now, so they cannot make wines anymore. So if I'm gonna summarize my total speech, I'm gonna show it in these pictures right here. So the first picture that it shows right here, it shows You don't see this scene anymore in Iran, but technically this is a hair salon that before the revolution. So you can see the women, they're like look like a Western woman. And nowadays, if there is a hair salon in Tehran or any other cities, as soon as they walk out of the hair salon, they have to cover their head again. The second picture that I'm going to show you, again, there's a lady that she's walking the street. She wearing makeup and then she shows her earring. But again, unfortunately, you don't see that anymore. So after the revolution happened, this is like what happened, and then they had to wear hijab, and then they have to somehow, in some cases, they had to still cover their faces. This is the woman and men that they're walking the street. These are the women in 1986, if I'm not mistaken. They're shopping for the wedding dress. And nowadays, the president,